Hey, this is Nick Coffee here with a slightly more relaxed format. The kind of format where I can say whatever I want in the kind of, where I can talk like I usually do. And I might even say the F word. Who knows? We'll get there. I want to apologize in case there's some background noise. My neighbors are a little loud and the world exists. So, there's that. But today I want to talk about Call of Cthulhu, and no, not the story, no, not the tabletop RPG, I want to talk about the games. Over the last few years of delving deeper into, Lovecraftian nightmares, I've gotten the same question about a quintillion times. Why are there no good Cthulhu movies? Why are there no good Lovecraft games? And that's very simple, it's real. The answer is pretty simple. Cosmic horror games and cosmic horror movies are incredibly hard to make. They really are. After all, the point of a cosmic horror or eldritch story is that the big baddies are so nasty and so terrible, so huge that we can't even really imagine it. It's not the monster that's scary, it's the idea of the monster that's scary. Also, there are good Lovecraft games out there, and we're going to talk about a couple of them. Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth, made in 2005 by Headfirst Studio, and the newly made Call of Cthulhu, made in 2018 by Cyanide. Let's take a look at Call of Cthulhu 2018, for which I was both skeptical and excited. I've seen Lovecraft IPs fail to deliver time and time again, and they usually end up becoming goofy parodies of what they were trying to work with, and I was hoping this game wouldn't be one of those. When I got it, I was super excited. Then the intro cutscene rolled by, and I predicted damn near every single thing that would later happen in the game. Some of my predictions were eerie too, a little too precise. It's a little scary actually, but that's when it hit me. I'm not some kind of video game psychic here. This game was just a little heavy on the Lovecraftian cliches. You're a detective who is asked to go to an island in search of a girl. Already we're in thick, predictable territory. To find that the whaling community is seeing dead whales stranded on their shores in alarming numbers. You're then tasked with walking around the game area about the size of an inflatable children's pool, endlessly questioning everyone and looking at every pixel in the game to find the certain item you need. You sneak, you run, you do the thing, you even befriend a local police officer. There's something about a painting. The painting has a monster in it. And here's where the game gets good for us for a minute. The monster is freaky, it's scary, and I love the part of the game where it's in. 5 out of 5. Sadly, it was just for a little bit until you stabbed the painting it lived in. And honestly, I love that part. It's a good little callback to, hey, remember the story of Pickman's model? Wasn't that pretty cool? And I'm like, yeah, boy, that was pretty cool. I love Pickman's model. I love every reference of Pickman's model in any game, especially Fallout 4. Eventually you find out that the girl wasn't being held hostage. This was a big shock for everybody. She was part of the cult of the island that worships, are you ready? Say it with me now? Cthulhu! But also like another creature who talks to you in your dreams and in your mind, which seems like a red herring in retrospect, but I love the idea of the big sea creatures, like Cthulhu's vestigial twin. Turns out, you're the chosen one of the biggest Lovecraftian tropes there is. You were lured here. This was your destiny. They were trying to get you to come here. Yeah. Finally, you summon Cthulhu and he shows up, and it's supposed to be very scary, but it's not very scary. We've seen the same image about 100 times when we Google Cthulhu. We go into Google image search and there it is. I'm gonna probably pull up a picture of that, of a Google image search of Cthulhu, and find that very same picture. It was very nice, it was very cool looking. It was cool, but like, okay. So, yeah, cool. So like the coolest part of the story, which would objectively be Cthulhu actually being awoken. You know, in retrospect, I might have gone for an idea where Cthulhu is already awoken. He's already been summoned. Maybe there's a sequel coming out, but I'm you know, I'm not putting up my hopes. I'm not putting up my hopes for that at all. Was it bad? No. It was a fine game. If a little small and repetitive, like, there are parts I liked, and there are parts I hated. But most of all, I hated that I could predict everything that was gonna happen. Even the boss fight with the painting monster was pretty chill once you figure out how to do the thing. If I had to give it an overall score, I would probably give it a 3 out of 5. Because it does look good, it's a good game. It's, you know, there are parts that are grinding and awful and boring, and there are parts that are legitimately interesting, like the part where you're in an insane asylum. That was... Oh, don't get me started on that. That was freaky. I actually thought that was freaky, and that was a good part. Now let's talk about dark corners. Now I won't lie, and you know, take this review with a grain of salt, because personally I like Dark Corners a lot better. Not only because, well, probably because of nostalgia. I played it recently, and it's pretty damn good still. Like I'm pretty impressed with what the game was back in 2005. If, you know, laden with bugs. Now, you know, I adopted an interest in the occult and, you know, mysteries and dark cosmic horror at a pretty young age, like very young. So I was excited about getting the game. After about like 100 bugs and 1,000 crashes, I finally got it somewhat working, and I was brought to a familiar place. Because this game is a loose adaptation of The Shadow over Innsmouth. And by loose, I mean that it absolutely loses its mind about halfway through, but in a good way. You're a detective. Yeah, another cliche, you know, how are we gonna get away from the cliches? Looking for a young man in the town of Innsmouth. And it's made crystal clear as soon as you leave the bus, you're not welcome here. Now the plot follows Shadow over Innsmouth very well, until you get a hold of a ship, that is. Also there's a part with a lady who's like a defector and like a very, very mysterious guy, turns out to be. I won't spoil it. But he's very mysterious, he shows up in places where you're just like, how the fuck did you get here? Very G-Man-esque. Well, suddenly, yeah, you get a ship. And suddenly you're operating an anti-aircraft cannon and blowing up Dagon. Fucking Dagon. Dagon is a badass, but you just pulverized him. Because you're actually part space alien. Yep, the great Yithian race decided to put some of their funky DNA in your dad. So now you can use Yithian tech, including guns. Pretty cool. You know, why not? Suddenly you're in Devil's Reef, making your way through an alien hive-like nightmare, gunning your way through prison for fucking flying polyps, and finally killing Mother Hydra. Now for someone expecting the standard issue Shadow over Innsmouth story, this was like so much better. So much better. As opposed to only being scared by the painting monster part and admittedly part of the asylum part, but that was more the tension of walking around. But you know, I was scared almost throughout all of Dark Corners, even after I got guns and shit. Like, I was tense and hiding behind crates in the beginning. I might have manned up by the time I got to the flying polyps. I feel like I remember like jumping around, being kind of like, this is like Quake now. Boom, fuck you. I remember jumping around and like being like, you know, this is easy. This is not that bad. And now don't think that my constitution for horror has increased over time. Because you'd be wrong. When I was a pasty teen, I was mired in horror, like all kinds. I tried playing Outlast a few months ago, and I had to stop from heart palpitations. All in all, I would give 4 out of 5. Because, you know, I can't say that it's a perfect game. It's not. It's really good for what you had at the time. It's, you know, an okay game. But that's about all it is. The reason that I like Shadow over Innsmouth more is because it was unpredictable. It was a new story, which, you know, when you get a Lovecraft game, part of me at least is hoping like, oh my god, please don't let this be like the same story I've read about 10 times. Please, please, for the love of God, let it be interesting. Which is why I'm really looking forward to Atomic Heart, which, only judging from the trailers, I feel like a lot of Lovecraftian or Eldritch horror in there. And I'm really looking forward to Atomic Heart. It looks creepy, it looks just up my alley. There are little robot monkeys in there. I think that's it for now. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.